First, I would like to issue a few disclaimers. As radical feminists, we are all too familiar with the brutal and horrifying topic of violence against women. For the sake of anyone here or watching online at another time, triggering topics will be mentioned, like rape, other forms of violence, and suicide. My goal is for us to consider our own safety and well-being as well as the safety and well-being of other women. I need to discuss what many of us experience. Speaking of safety, let's ponder how women aren't safe and who made us unsafe. When we express concern about being attacked or the fear of being raped or a victim of any type of violent crime, who do we think of, or for some of us, who were our assailants? I'm not talking about what you've heard on the news or social media, but your specific assailant. If you had the horrific experience of child sexual abuse and all the trauma it caused you, even years later, it is far more likely a man of your own racial or ethnic group committed that crime. For some women, a man of another racial or ethnic group abused you. That happens, and it's just as bad. But I bet most, if not all of us, were not victims of such trauma by a woman of another racial or ethnic group. So why are you told to fear the Black woman or the Latina or the Pakistani woman, or that she does not belong in your country? What atrocity has she committed against you? If you're a Black woman like myself, I bet you can't think of a time a white woman threatened to beat you up because you told her she could not touch your hair. But I bet you've heard of a Black woman threatened or insulted by a Black man for not responding to his street harassment the way he wanted her to. Knowing all of this, why do we fear or see the women of other racial ethnic groups as the enemy and not part of our tribe, for lack of a better way to put it? Especially when we all experience the same atrocities for the same reason, for being women. For example, illegal immigration and borders are supposed to be about safety, but still, we aren't safe around men from our own racial groups. And before anyone says, well, the data shows XYZ men do it more, I would ask you, do it more to whom? We are safer around women who are different from us than we are around men who are the same as us. But we are groomed to desire connection and pride in men based on similar racial characteristics, when the concept of race is debatable, but not to women, all of whom, or with all of whom, we share biological characteristics. The reality of sex is not arguable. So if your focus is on keeping yourself safe, why does that include loyalty to the group most likely to harm you, men? Why fear those least likely to rape or kill you, women? Some women place a great importance on biological similarities. Women must acknowledge that our racial or ethnic characteristics with men are only to the groups we belong to. So if your particular racial or ethnic group accounts for only 9 or 10% of the world's population, that means you are similar to perhaps 5 or 6% of men. Women are just under 50% of the world's population. That means you share a biological similarity with almost half the world. We are members of the vast group called women. So why isn't that biological similarity significant? Why don't we rally behind the similarities we have with women? I really can't see the status of women improving if we don't prioritize women. What does it mean to prioritize sex over race or ethnicity? When I say prioritize women, that means prioritizing us and our collective needs as a group over the needs of men of our various racial groups. I want to stress again that women also share the same biological experience and, the same biological characteristics and shared experiences and needs. I hate to use the word tribe, but we have to start thinking of ourselves as one huge tribe called women. In other words, you share these biological characteristics with women regardless of her natural or her origin. Why is skin color or ethnicity such a vital characteristic, but the similarities between women aren't? Could it be due to who benefits? It's not women as a class benefiting. We know there's a debate on the reality of race, but again, there's no possible debate on the reality of sex. We know that being women and girls is a biological reality. Every single human in existence came out of a woman's body. So we should be taking that reality as seriously as we do race or ethnicity, if not more seriously. For example, the Russia-Ukraine war has been raging for about 3 or 4 years. Speaking as someone on the outside looking in at both cultures, both groups, I can't tell the difference between a Russian citizen and a Ukrainian citizen just by looking at them. Also, those physical similarities matters little to both sides. That racial similarity did not stop Russia from bombing a maternity hospital in Mariupol, ending the lives of white children and women. That's just one example that racial nationalism is an illusion. Even within a nation, Ukrainian women aren't protected from reproductive exploitation as much as they should be. Black women in America experience some of the highest rates of intimate partner violence. Guess from whom? Rape, child molestation, and other forms of violence transcends race. That means women have a shared and horrific experience. You may not be able to identify with racial profiling, misogynoir, meaning the hatred of Black women, or anti-immigrant sentiments, but still, we can identify as victims of sexual assault and the assault on our reproductive rights. When I say prioritizing women over race, it does not mean that I ignore racism or that no one should be proud of their culture. I'm a Black American. I don't attach African to American or use woman of color to describe my background. The food, the Black church, Black American literature, and music are all things I admire. However, that is not the only part of who I am, nor do I use that as a measure for who is allowed in my circle. I am also a woman. That biological reality has proven to be more consequential than anything else I am, including Blackness. As the Declaration reminds us, motherhood is a status exclusively held by females. I can bond with women over the experience of pregnancy and motherhood, regardless of their race. I can't bond with Black men or any men, for that matter, over pregnancy. Not all women are mothers, nor do they want to be. So there are many ways I bond exclusively with women. The desire for safety and a voice. Knowing the reality that you are physically weaker than your primary oppressor and having a scary story helps me to bond with other women and develop solutions. I have found that men are often dismissive or feel that men are being attacked as a group when I or any other women speak out on violence against women, and that's a red flag in and of itself. In addition, all of us here witness the horror of being erased and being told that our lived experiences are lies. When we speak about our unique experiences as women, we're accused of not being inclusive to men who claim to be women. Ultimately, the needs of women should take priority over the needs of a specific racial group. That's prioritizing sex over race or ethnicity. For me as a Black woman, there are so many problems we are facing that need attention, one of which is the skyrocketing increase in suicide among Black women. I'm speaking specifically of the United States. Another is maternal mortality. Those issues are far more urgent to me than anything the Black male collective is facing. Make no mistake, it's not only about Black women. Prioritizing women means that I accept that white women, whether they are in North America or Europe, should be free to acknowledge the sometimes targeted violence against them by men, whether they are white men or men from immigrant communities. I want to emphasize again, men from immigrant communities. I'm not going to get into whether or not white European or immigrant men commit more violence. I know that it's happening. We must stop ignoring the reality that white women can't be victims of racially targeted violence. Powerless men want power and will take out their powerlessness on women whom they perceive as weaker or just out of revenge against the dominant group. I am encouraged when I see white women speaking out against these racist grooming gangs without apology. Just don't forget to prioritize all women. Because when I hear your stories, I'm also hearing stories of Asian and Black women beaten and killed by men in Europe as well. It's undoubtedly a problem in the United States too. Not saying my country is perfect. The need to protect non-white men from culpability is harmful to all women. In the same manner, making white men the pillars of safety is also detrimental to all women. I've said many times before that I used to be a race-first woman. I would eventually learn that race first meant sacrificing our needs as women. It's no secret that Black women are groomed to suffer in silence rather than report a Black male attacker, at least in the United States. Some will go as far as not even condemning a Black male perpetrator of violence in the name of protecting the Black man. If I put my life on the line, admittedly, it would be for my children first, but prioritizing women means I am willing to take risks on behalf of women in general, rather than for any individual man. As I've said in previous speeches, when you are on the front lines, you become the face of that movement, which means you become a target. It should certainly be worth the risk. And I must be honest, men aren't worth the risk, regardless of their race, at least not to me. Women advocating for women should realize the world is getting more hostile towards women. We should take the opportunity to draw more women into our message. The movement of women should not be restricted. I'm seeing the proliferation of intentional communities popping up in various parts of the world. Some of these communities are based on religion, some on race or nationalities, and some are cultish in other ways. What all these communities have in common is the restriction of women's movement. When I say movement, I'm not talking about political movements, but moving to and fro. Since we live in a world where women have to escape from sexual exploitation and other forms of slavery, we need safe houses for women who are victims of domestic violence too. Intentional communities that restrict women are dangerous for all of us. That is why I unapologetically discourage women from these cults. And I believe that women should have priority when seeking asylum in a safer country. We need a free and unbridled movement of women, meaning, when I say unbridled, that her race or ethnicity should not be a factor when deciding if she's allowed into a new country or to a safe place. Our safety depends on that. I cannot tell you how disheartening it is to hear self-proclaimed radical feminists or advocates for women excluding women fleeing violence in their home countries or agree with sending them back. To me, it's not enough to declare that women need safe spaces or be free from male violence and then turn around and exclude women seeking asylum. Do you know who joins you in wanting to send these women back? The men raping them and committing other forms of violence, like in Haiti. Have you considered who agrees with you that Afghan women should remain in Afghanistan or not be prioritized for asylum? The Taliban. The same men who are restricting access to education, beating and executing women on the streets would agree with you. You may not be on their side, but they are on yours. We should all be crushed whenever we hear of American women murdered by illegal immigrants. Some of the names that come to mind are Larissa Sherrill Thompson, a Black mother from South Carolina who was killed by a group of males in the country illegally. Also, there's Rachel Morin, a white mother of 5 who was raped and killed by undocumented immigrants. The defense even tried to tarnish her image, saying that she was a loose woman. Like, a woman's behavior has any excuse to kill her. It's not. And finally, we need to speak out for justice for these women and any other women who are victims of men, whether here legally or illegally. We should care, because what's the common denominator? Usually, men kill them. Women should not be held accountable for the actions of men. Whether most migrants are women or men is not relevant to the discussion. Let's stop holding women accountable for the crimes of men. Let's prioritize sex over race. Thank you.